Hey YouTube viewers, Yankee Blue here. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a video of, we're going to do a defensive tip here for an actual gameplay scenario that happened in the last gameplay that we posted. A particular situation, and just wanted to break it down a little bit in practice mode and show you guys basically just a small adjustment you can make to really concentrate on a couple of key concepts that I think are really helpful for people beginning off that aren't too comfortable playing defense. Number one, to make easy adjustments. And then a little bit of usering, and then a key concept that I want to talk about today is staying in a base formation and in a base coverage in particular, specifically in particular situations. That way you can just make adjustments out of it, and it's going to make your playing defense much easier. The thought process and the thinking that you're going to have to go into is going to be much simpler. So we're going to break this down for you guys to kind of show you what transpired in that game. So to start off with, my opponent had the Raiders in that game, and he was in a ace pair formation. And the play that he was running on me when he did pass was the tight end attack. So we're going to grab that out of the playbook here. I'm going to go into the base formation that I was in, which was the nickel normal. And I'm going to pick up the slant show too, because that's the base coverage that I was in. So the concept I kind of want to go over now is when you are playing somebody and you get into situations and your opponent starts hitting you with something, and it becomes a tendency for them. It seems to be a go-to play for them on certain downs and distances. So in this case, second and long, third and long. So for me, what I noticed was he was hitting me with his tight end attack, and I went to a cover three, and a couple plays, might have been the play before, a couple plays before, he hit me with this play, the tight end attack. And what you'll notice is that it's basically a verticals formation. Rivera's angled route is a little bit different, a little bit sharper than the typical verticals route, and then you've got basically another vertical route beside that with the other tight end, but it's got a little bit of a bend into it, so it gets into a different the spacing's a little bit different, and it's pretty effective. So one thing that we wanted to start off with right away was that the biggest issue we have being in this cover three, which is what that means is that we have a deep blue here, we have a deep blue on this third of the field, and we have a deep blue on that side of the field on the right hand side, and then we've got some zones underneath that. So with this coverage, especially because this is a cover three blitz, the two areas that were most sensitive, that were most vulnerable, is in the flat, and then in the flat, and then also in the seam. There's two areas, and he's already hit me in the seam, which lets me know he's aware, or at least has a pretty good idea what coverage I've been in and what I'm in now, and he knows he can make a read basically and be able to attack me in that area. So the first thing that I want to do, since I know that I'm staying in this cover three, is figure out, okay, how can I stop that? So there's a couple options. I could do this. I could man up church on it, but I don't love that idea because now I've left the top third open, and that just puts me in a vulnerable situation. I want him to stay up there where I need him to cover the deep third, just in case some deep route gets in there or something like that. Like, I just want to make sure that I am covered. So I want to leave that alone. That's not really an option for me. I need this yellow zone here to cover that Rivera route, so I really can't do anything with that. So then I come over here to Lee. Now, I don't really want to send a six-man pressure right now. I'm more interested in coverage. I still want to send five because that's going to allow me, if he rolls out or something like that, like I'm going to get a little extra pressure out there. Maybe I get a block shed early and we create some pressure. But I don't need this six guy. So now I can decide, well, what do I want to do with Lee? Now there's a couple options. Because he's blitzing and I don't need him, on this particular play to blitz, I could user him. I could slide him over here and be like, "Nuh-uh, buddy, I'm not letting you throw that anymore," and I could come over here and make it very obvious what I'm doing. That's certainly an option. What I chose to do instead was just man it up. Like, that's one easy solution. If something's causing you a problem in the coverage that you're in, man it up and see what happens. That can typically help, especially against a streak. That's a pretty easy thing to man up. Like, it's going to take it away pretty much immediately. Now the next question becomes, who do I want to user in this defense? Again, we go back to church. I could do that, but again, for the same reasons. If something weird happens and I go out here and get distracted by something, or I run down too far and there's some route that I didn't account for, I could be burned deep, and I'm just not that competent or confident of a user defender to really do that. So that option for me is kind of out at this point. So the next option becomes, okay, do I want to use your McLean? That's certainly an option, and to be perfectly honest, in retrospect, that's probably a pretty good one. The only thing being is that I'm not 100% sure what route he's going to throw, and I feel a little bit more comfortable since I have that outside route manned up that I want to leave this middle yellow zone where it's at, because it's gonna cover that middle of the field. I'm more worried about the seam right now. So then we get to Wilcox. Now Wilcox is definitely an option, and it's the best option for me based on my opponent's formation. So if we take a look at our opponent's formation, the majority of his routes are on the right hand side of the field away from me, and there's only one route that really has any real possibility of coming over to my side and causing me a problem at some point, and that's Rivera's route. But based on my opponent's formation, with most of his, as long as the running back's not running some weird route into my area, for the most part, I don't have a lot to worry about. I don't have any real direct threats to me, except for maybe Cooper if he's on a slant or some weird post. But even then, I have help. If it's a slant, I have McLean over here in the yellow zone, and if it's a post, hopefully, possibly, I have my other safety behind me over the top to kind of help me out with that, so I don't get completely burned. So as far as this formation is concerned, as it's set up right now, this is an ideal situation to use her, because I don't have a lot of responsibility, and it's very low risk for me. I can come over here, I can kind of see what Cooper's doing, watch him. If he's continues to he's on a streak, I can then go into here and I can start getting up in here and trying to make plays, take something away, help McLean with that route, that crossing route, if there's a crossing route or whatever the case may be. I'm free to roam now and help out. So this is kind of the ideal user situation, especially for a beginner user. I have very little responsibility in this play. There's very little, because of the formation and the possible route combinations that there could be. There's not a lot that's going to burn me in this situation, and I can user that and feel pretty good about it. What actually ends up happening is my opponent slides Murray out, and as soon as he does that, my responsibilities have completely changed. Now I am in kind of trouble, because I'm thinking, and I'm pretty sure that that guy's on a streak, which means I'm really the only thing standing between triangle and the end zone. So now I'm handcuffed. I have to stay here, and I have to respect that there is a receiver there now, and I have a responsibility. And my number one responsibility is to make sure I don't give up the streak. Now, there's an easy solution to that, which at the time I don't think I had the time to make it, because I think shortly after he slid him out, he snapped the ball, and I didn't want to get caught trying to adjust something, so I kind of stayed with it. But I could have done that, and now I'm in the same situation. I can roam, I can do stuff, I can do whatever I want, and I'm pretty much free to help out wherever I need to. So that's that situation. Unfortunately, that's not what happened, and the guy was stuck out there, and we knew. So in this case, I have one responsibility now, and that's to make sure that I don't give up the seam. I just got to stay with it. I just got to make it look good, basically. Like, I just got to stay with that guy and cover him, so that my opponent's kind of deters my opponent from throwing it. And to be honest, there had been even though my user is not very good, it's not great, There have been a couple of plays in the game where I jumped some routes. I didn't pick him off, but I got in there and I, knocked the ball down, or I knocked out his timing, and he saw me making those plays, and he might have thought I had a better user than I did. It might have deterred him from throwing to my side once he saw. So I'm going to reset this play here real quick. Baseline. I'm going to get it set up again just the way I want, just to make sure this thing cooperates and does what I want it to do. So that we're all set, and we're going to snap the ball, and you're going to see how this play transpired. So I kind of tapped it there, but you get the general idea, and we'll see how the play shook out in replay mode. So what you'll see is, we'll see on the left-hand side, I forgot to streak him up, but that was my mistake on that one. But it's covered. We'll go with that. My bad, guys. I meant to streak him up, but I mean, I'm using that, and if you watch the gameplay video, you'll see that I covered the route. Now, what you'll see is Rivera's cross. Now, it's only going to be covered for a brief amount of time, but long enough that our opponent might not throw that, or at least he's not going to. And then he goes to the seam. I threw that kind of, I'm sorry guys, I was doing two controllers and it kind of threw off, but you can see like Lee's there. He makes the play in the video, and you see it. So the concept that I think is the most important out of this is that, number one, all we had to do was make one adjustment, and we took away everything that he wants to do right now is not there, at least for the time being. It's pretty well covered. Like if he waits it out and waits and waits and waits for that Rivera route, like he might get that. And that's why I said it might have been, in retrospect, better if I know what's coming to probably leave Wilcox where he's at and just user McLean. But that's because that's the one route that zone's not going to hold that forever, and he might still get open. But that's neither here nor there. He ended up not throwing it, and here's why I don't think that he did, and I'll tell you why right now. The cool thing about the concept that we're talking about, which the main concept of this is staying in one particular defensive formation and one coverage, one type of coverage, whether it be cover 3, cover 2, or man, and making adjustments out of that, is most people can make a read whether it's man or zone. Like they have some sort of route, like a hot route that lets them know, like if a guy's running after him, it's man, or if a guy floats away from him, it's zone, and then they make their throw based off that. And you guys know, running plays enough times, like sometimes you go on autopilot. As soon as you recognize it's zone, you may not know exactly what zone it is, but you know it's zone, and you make your throw based on that. That sometimes you don't even really look. And the cool thing about this concept is, with the defensive coverage being the same and just making adjustments out of that base coverage, 80 to 90% of your coverage is going to look exactly the same. There's just going to be a couple of different adjustments on it. So it's going to mess up your reads. You're going to force your opponent, number one, to throw. You know where he's going to throw, because the base coverage is, it's a cover 3. He's going to throw at my seam. He's going to throw at my flat, blah, 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 blah. You basically know where he's going with the ball, and then the adjustments that you have to make, it's not a guessing game. You have a pretty good idea of where he's going to throw it, and your adjustments can be specific to that. The flip side of that is, your opponent's going to throw, he's going to throw things he has no business throwing, because most of your coverage looks the same, and he thinks he's making a read. He thinks he sees zone, so he throws somewhere, oh shoot, it's not that, or that's not the zone that should be there, or it's manned up crap, like in that situation. That's the power of this concept, guys. That's the thing I wanted to go over with you, and I hope that makes sense. So back out here, and I'll just go over it one more time. So really, guys, the power to this is, the key concepts that I want you guys to take away from this video is, number one, stay in a base defense that you feel comfortable in. Specific more to the pass, because we want to worry about coverage situations for adjustments right now. Some ideal situations for that is like a zone blitz, because you're going to have guys that maybe you don't want to send the blitz all the time, or in a particular situation, because you're more worried about stopping than you are about sending a blitz. You can use some of these guys in coverage to change your coverage, to make adjustments that aren't crucial to the coverage part of it. You can add coverage and make simple adjustments to take something away from a player who's not key to any of the zones or any of the coverage that you have going on. It's just basically he's an extra guy that now we can put into coverage. And then the other portion of that is that we know where our opponent's going to throw the ball for the most part, because if we've been in this coverage before against the formation he's showing, he has a tendency towards a certain type of routes that he's running out of this formation, and he's going to throw to a certain route based on a certain coverage. And in that case, if we make adjustments underneath that specific to the routes that he throws that causes the most problems, we're going to be able to cause him to make a mistake. The other portion of that, the other important part of this whole concept is, all right, so a base coverage, a base defense that we're familiar with, that we know how to make adjustments out of pretty easily. And then the other part of that is going to be, one, make sure use a computer controlled player to make an adjustment, a manual adjustment to cover something, to take one thing away, and then use another player that has a low amount of responsibility in the defense that's not going to hurt us too bad, so that we can make a play on something else. So in that way, we're taking away two things in every single play. Two things we can take away from our opponent by making one manual adjustment, and then using a defender in a low risk area like a baby blue, or an area where there's no real receivers that are a threat to us, and going over to make a play. So let me know what you guys think, guys. I thought I'd just try this video using a scenario that happened in a real gameplay, post it for you guys to kind of try to help you guys with defense, how to think about defense, how to start that, just to scrape the surface of starting to think about, okay, how can we make adjustments, and how can we use her, and what should we think about when we're in a formation, about what's the best opportunity for us to use her if we're not really that good at using, what's going to be the most beneficial and low risk for us, but it's going to maximize what we can do to help our defense. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Let me know if you guys like it. Hit the like button. This is Yankee Blue, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. We'll see you next time.